No script, no nothing. I'm doing something a little different because for the last. I would be lying if I said it was just for the last few months. It's probably for the last few years that I've been streaming in total. Ever since I was starting off on Twitch, moved to Mixer, stay on Mixer for like an entire year. Wherever it was, I don't know how long ago it was. And again, it's a lie to say a few months. It's been a few years. I've come to an understanding with streaming. First and foremost, I'm not going to stop that. I'm going to quickly clarify that before beginning. I'm not stopping my streaming. I am still going. But the thing here is that for all those years, I've had this preconceived notion that religion or politics or really anything that doesn't have to do with streaming should never be talked about on a platform like that. I am primarily for gaming with this channel. ITP Paladin is a game centric name that I chose because when creating a personality for it, which by the way, I try to be authentic regardless of whether or not I'm on or off stream, so I'm not changing my personality based on any of this. But I find myself trying to keep separate when it comes to when it comes to the streaming portion of things. Like I don't talk about a lot of personal stuff as far as like controversial topics. So I don't mention any political views. I don't mention religious views. I don't mention all of the above when it comes to controversy. When it comes to sexuality and all that, I am completely open about who I am. If someone asks me about it, I have no reason to lie about it unless, of course, it's a very personal question. In which case, I take that at with a grain of salt and at face value for what it is at the current time. The reason I'm making this again, though, is because over the years I've had this again preconceived notion that I needed to keep them separate, but it's kind of been bugging me regardless this entire time. So a little bit of backstory is that I grew up in a very Christian household. Parents came from Catholicism and the Catholic Church. They themselves thought that they could find more outside of it and thus started doing some seeking in their own personal lives, and raising two older brothers and me in this household, led to an adventure of trying to figure more things out. Like that's all you can really do as a parent, and that's all you could really do in your life. You just keep seeking for answers, and if you're just not happy where you are, you obviously seek for more. So I don't fault them for the household that I grew up in or the laws that they set. I grew up with a lot of confliction. Being a little, probably a little too much information, is that even growing up in a Christian household, didn't really stop me from having these issues that normal people, and I say normal people loosely, but normal people usually deal with. Because whenever you go into social media, that's a totally different personality, and people try to make this facade of what they want to be, rather than who they actually are, most of the time. So I'm not going to sit here and lie straight to the face of the camera or to you guys on the other side and say, oh, I grew up in a Christian household. I'm a good Christian boy. I never had any problem. No, first off, anybody who tries to sell you that a Christian is better than you is selling some bullshit. I'm going to say it outright right there. And by the way, I am working on the cursing, so if you're going to call me a hypocrite on that, call me one in the comments section below. I'll take that as it is. But I grew up in this Christian household. I dealt with all these issues. I had moments where I had to question myself for some of the big controversial things. Like, first off, do I actually believe what I'm growing up into? Because right now I'm in my parents' household. They're kind of financially and all of the above. I can't even name one thing off the top of my head. Again, no script. But they were responsible for raising me the right way, or the way that they felt that was the right way. As a parent, you are legally held accountable for your child. So until I was out of the house, they were legally and morally and ethically obligated to take care of me in the way that they saw fit. This was just the way it worked. So I don't know how can't speak. I don't know how most households are nowadays versus the way I grew up. But there were obviously guidelines. But I found myself trying to find individual thought when I hit my teenage years and the hormones start kicking in and your mind starts like overflowing with information. We're in an overload of information kind of days. And it didn't really help the fact that I grew up in this environment and I was like, is there something about me that I still need to figure out? And again, when you're a teenager, that's kind of the phase in which you kind of have to do it. Or even as a kid, you just play games and then you eventually figure yourself out when things start taking that serious turn. So in this household, in this environment, I kept asking myself, okay, who am I? I took myself into a room. I took away all distractions, all video games, TVs turned off. I even turned the screen if I needed to. I put all the distractions, the posters, and everything away. I just sat myself in an empty room, and I just said, I'm not walking out of this room until I determine the two answers that I really need to know, and anything else that comes to mind. Who am I, and what do I want? Because ultimately, I'm going to live my life. I'm not walking my parents' lives. I'm not walking my grandparents' lives. I'm not walking my brother's lives. I'm not walking anyone's lives but my own. So I took myself into that environment, and I sat myself down and wouldn't get up until I answered some of the questions, and I was satisfied with the... not satisfied with the answer, but satisfied in, okay, if I can't find the answer now, I will look into that answer, and it'll take time, but at least I know where to start. So after having this self-reflection, there was a lot of these questions. How am I really about my beliefs? At the time, I was ignorant, and I referred to my beliefs as a religion because I didn't understand the difference of Christianity as the religion versus the Christianity in reality. And that would be something way different and there's another reason why I'm talking about this too. More on that in a bit. But I asked myself, is this really what I believe? I thought about it for a minute, and, I thought back on everything that I was raised with, and it wasn't that people were shoving things in my head. They were relaying it to me, and sometimes it felt like, no, you have to pay attention, and they would kind of put my vision back, but understanding, looking back at it now, was probably the most helpful thing that they have ever done, and I can see it, like, tough love may be tough love, but it's love just in a different fashion, so never taking away from that. But my parents did the best that they could, and, again, they came out of the Catholic belief into a more Christian-based belief outside of the Catholic rule. So, rule of thumb, rather. Rule of thumb? Yeah, whatever. The hierarchy. Whatever you want to call it. I don't know the word for it. I'm, again, no script. I probably should be... probably should have had some order to this. But one of them, but in that same self-reflection, I asked myself about the things. What do I really believe in politics? What do I really believe in my sexuality? What do I believe about who I am as a person? It wasn't just about my beliefs, like my beliefs were one of them. But again, this is what has been bothering me for years when I started streaming, is like, I'm still trying to find myself. And I do want to grow as a streamer. I absolutely do. But one of the things that was really hard on me for all this time of streaming after that self-reflection was I'm still trying to find who I am, and I'm trying to, I don't want to push my beliefs on anybody. I don't want to force anybody to change their perspective or change their beliefs while on the flip of a dime while I'm sitting here comfy in my original spot, like unmoved. No, I like to have discussions because the evidence will speak for itself. I don't believe I need to really put too hard of an argument on that. But then recently, and this is years after the streaming, and even before the streaming when it came to that instance, but years after, way longer, it's just actually recently, I came upon a streamer. I'm not going to mention her name on here. I'm going to put it in the link below. But she is a Christian streamer who is live on a different site than I am currently. I'm on Glimish. Basically, she is so open on social media. She has a decent following, and she is unapologetic about her beliefs. Now, I've been quiet about, again, these controversial things because I don't want to come across as I'm shoving anything down anyone's throat, and obviously that's not the case 100% of the time. People who come to watch your stream are free to leave whenever they want, and if they don't like the content, they don't like the content, whatever. I'll find someone as long as I'm having fun. So when it came to that, I was like, okay, now I'm having this conflict because I had a kind of a spiritual reawakening, if you'll call it that, or a rebirthing. I don't know the word. I'm still trying to figure out the best way to relay this because it feels a little, what's the word? It feels like it's being... I was going to say enforced. Oh my god, this is why I need a script. It feels like I'm, like, making it more than it actually is. Like, it was a spiritual rebirthing. I actually read this book, and I've talked about it before. It's called The Circle Trilogy, by this awesome dude named Ted Decker. And he wrote The Circle Trilogy, And its literal purpose is to change your perspective on the belief in a Christian faith, in a Christian walk. When I read that, the things that I thought that I knew all of a sudden became null and void. And that is the best words for it. It did. What I thought I knew. I sat here saying to myself before that time, oh, I know about this, I know about this, and I know Jesus. I finished reading the second book. I read one sentence that changed my life forever. And at that moment, everything I knew shattered into billions of tiles and pieces and whatever. And if you know those conspiracy theory memes where you see the strings attached to everything, that's what started happening. Every little thing just started connecting in ways that I didn't think of before. And it was no longer about knowing. It was about understanding. So this is not the video where I'm going to preach to you about this whole spiritual reawakening. But the reason I mention this is it's because it's important. I found this streamer, and I don't believe it was by accident, who is expressing her beliefs, her faith, her walk daily on what I would consider a cesspool of social media on Twitter, which is what I'm using to promote my platform. Now, I'm following a bunch of different people who are not necessarily like-minded. Granted, you know, I do that because they followed me. I followed them back, and I agreed. I was like, hey, you know, I'll follow you back as a kind gesture. Kind of like opening up the tree olive branch here and extending, like, you know, whatever. The grapevine, I think is what it's actually called, not the olive branch. But, you know, she's expressing it. She's got a following. So obviously, it's not that I can't find anybody if I start talking about my beliefs. But again, I've been having this conflict this entire time of trying not necessarily to hide who I am, but just not talk about the controversial stuff that people don't want to talk about. So to make a very long story short, this conflict that I've been having ever since I found this streamer has always been like, how does she manage to do this on the streaming service and like constantly do this on the daily? Because I feel like if I had started doing the same thing, not only would I fall through, excuse me, but it just wouldn't feel too authentic. Not necessarily that that my beliefs are not authentic, but rather I would then make it an identity to be more fake than it actually is. Oh, that helped a lot. So I think that this is the turning point. I'm done not necessarily apologizing, because I was never really in a bad position of like, I was never in a position of like introvertedness where I was like apologizing for existing or even apologizing for just holding back or whatever. Like, no, this is not a crutch. I'm done with it being a crutch. I'm done with it being dramatic and all that bullshit. Again, call me a hypocrite in the comments. But I know who I am, and I know at the end of the day who I'm representing, and I'm tired of keeping it hidden. And quite honestly, again, this is something that's been bugging me because I didn't know how to really approach this. And then I came up with the answer: it doesn't matter. This is a streaming service where people can come and go as they please. You shouldn't talk about controversial things because you don't want to start a flame war in your own channel. But for the person, for my God, who I'm representing, I'm done apologizing for it. I'm not going to apologize for it. And I know who I'm representing. And I know what I want to do with myself. And I'm sorry if this offends anybody, because I know that there's some people who are really gung-ho against Christianity and like believing that, you know, Christians are this hate group and whatever not. The only thing I'll end this video and topic on is that if that's the Christian that you know, then I ask you to give me personally, since you're finding me through this site, since you're finding me through my channel, since you're finding me through my streaming, since you're finding me through my platform, give me a chance to change that perspective. Because true Christianity is not based on damnation of others, and it's not based off of judging others based on their other lifestyle that's outside of mine. No. We're all in the same boat. I have no reason to lie to you. I have no reason to bullshit you. I have no reason to sell you on anything. I present you with the information I have, and if you accept it, that's fine. If you don't, then that's fine too. You are in your own walk, but we are all on the same boat. I have no benefit to lie to you. I have no benefit to tell you like anything other than the truth. But from now on, I'm done hiding that fact of who I am. That little minute thing that's been bugging me for years. I'm done. Wow, this is going to be an anticlimactic ending. Well, I'm hitting the 15-minute mark anyway, so I'm going to call it here. But I hope you guys consider, still following me on social media and, like, all the other stuff. My links are all down below in the description, including the one on Glimish. This is the weekend that I'm currently making this video, so most likely it's uploaded the same day, meaning that I'm not streaming tonight. But I will resume my streaming on the evenings throughout the week, Monday night, all the way into Friday night. Yeah, I appreciate all the support I've had up until this point, and I hope that this doesn't, cause a chasm for you guys to, all of a sudden hate me or anything like that. Again, I'm trying to be more open here, but this was like my personal battle that I've been dealing with for a while, and again, I'm done. I'm done not being who I am. I'm done trying to hide it just for the sake of confliction or for the sake of stirring something up. No. I am who I am. I will see you guys, hopefully, on Glimish. Have a good day, everyone.